Go, yeah, go, go, yeah, go, go, yeah.
All right, hey E-Force, Coach Troy, Coach Skyler here. We're gonna go through a torso and shoulders mobility series. So all you're gonna need is a foam roller if you have one. If you don't have a foam roller, we can skip past that first part. Let's go ahead and get started. So with our foam roller, we're gonna target the mid to upper back. So placing that foam roller just in between your shoulder blades, hips still on the ground to start, maybe fingertips just behind the head. Good. And just notice how we're just doing a nice little roll here. Take 30 seconds to a minute. And I really want to take in this idea of dimming the light switch. So the idea being that there's little lights turned on in your musculature, in your fascia, and by foam rolling over the top of it, you're just trying to turn it off. So just some deeper breathing, moving into some organic spots, and eventually you can see that your hips might lift and get a little bit of movement in that way, side to side. All right, that's been about 30 seconds. Once again, you can always freeze and keep it going. We're gonna move to the lat next. So that lat muscle is on the side body, so we'll get you all the way side lying. Good. Left foot on top of the right or in front. Good. And nice straight arm and just in and behind that armpit area. And you can move this top arm around as well. So whatever feels good, we just want to get that bigger area right underneath your armpit. It might also feel good to kind of tag a spot that's higher up and then just kind of rotate back and forth with the arm, but also could be the torso, if that feels okay. So same thing, just kind of dimming the light switch here. This is what allows your arm to reach further overhead. And then we'll just go ahead and make a switch. We're going to switch over to the opposite side. And we're just getting that space, and this would be good to see a different angle here, just underneath the armpit. Find that good kind of side position. It might feel a little bit awkward at first, but the goal here, breathe deep, no dinosaur faces. Those faces just mean you're tightening. So what's the right amount of pressure that's going to help just relax that area enough so we can get into some mobility next. So just a few seconds longer, play around with different ways of turning and angles. And if I would call it a sensation, it's about a 4 out of 10 sensation is what you're looking for in terms of how hard you are feeling that pressure. Good. So we've done a little bit of foam rolling. Now we're just going to get the blood flowing. Simple enough. We're going to have Coach Skyler and you guys here do some jumping jacks. And as we're doing some jumping jacks, just go ahead nice and light. It can be light. It's really just this idea of increasing the body's temperature. Nothing crazy going on here other than letting our body get more blood flow to all the joints, and we have the arms moving. So let's call it about 20 more seconds. Maybe we even get that little bit of sweat before we start to calm it back down. Good. And nice. Relax. I can see the heart rate's up just enough. We're going to bring it right back down into a cat and cow. So tabletop position is a good start. Moving with the breath. Inhale, gaze is high. Belly drops. Exhale, chin to chest. Round through the upper back. And those two movements through about 5 reps or so, or about a minute each side. So we just want you to take your time, and you can personalize each one. Maybe you reach a little bit longer. Good. And breathe. Nice. But this is a good general flexion and extension of the spine. This is to help loosen up that torso. Nice. We finished about 5 reps or so. We're going to move into a child's pose. So with child's pose, as long as there's no pain in the knees, we're reaching back, hips on the heels. Knees are as wide as they need to be. Good. And you're just trying to reach the fingertips long and the tailbone long, just getting that nice spine relaxation. And we're going to bring this into a side body stretch. So walk your hands to the left and really reach out of the right fingertips. And as you're reaching out of the right fingertips, we want to feel that sensation in that lat all the way through that side body. So I'll even ask you to really firm down those right fingertips. And you might even lean into that pinky finger a little bit more, almost karate chop the ground with that right hand. And whatever you need to do with that left hand to gain leverage, to lengthen over here. And hopefully you caught on that we're breathing still. We're getting longer inhales. Maybe you're even applying pressure to that area you're trying to lengthen. And then on your exhale, you're lengthening and relaxing a little bit further. Good. We've completed about a minute or so on this side. We're just going to slowly walk our hands to the opposite side and really reach out of the left fingertips now. You want to gain as much side body stretch as possible. So everything from your left hip bone all the way through that left pinky finger. And the stretch is happening through those bigger muscles that connect the torso to the arms and the extremities. And same thing. Pushing through that hand on your inhales, that's going to be your contraction of the muscles. And then the exhale, you might find just a little bit more range. So even though it appears static, there's dynamic things happening with your breath, with the force that you're applying into the muscles. And those little hanging out at end range is communicating the body to the brain to just relax a little bit further. Nice. We're going to meet back in tabletop again. We're going to prep ourselves for some rotation of the spine. Starting with the right side first, we're going to place the left hand just in front for some leverage. In this inhale, I just like to reach the right hand tall to start. And then on the exhale, we're going to thread the needle, so to speak. Right arm goes underneath, dropping ear to the ground, and the back of the hand is just resting. So you're getting a good view here of the opening that's happening behind the right shoulder blade into this scapula area. But at the same time, we're also getting that rotation, especially in the upper back. So once again, just like we said with that side body stretch, we're still dynamic because we're using our breath here and you're lengthening. So how long can you reach? Can you still put some pressure in the back of that right hand? That way you can feel the ground with your right hand and you can actually feel the muscles starting to lengthen. We'll call it a couple more breaths here, just to get long, just to allow this area of the body to relax. And then you can just reset in any way. And as you reset in any way, we'll start to reach the right fingertips a little forward. Inhale, left fingertips to the sky. Big exhale, big reach. And as you're reaching, you're getting a different view over here of what it might look like. Trying to get lower to the ground with that ear and that shoulder. You can always use blocks or anything that's necessary. And this arm is not hovering. It's active on the ground, trying to engage where you need to engage, but also relax where you need to relax. The idea is holding on to the stretch, but no extra tension. So what's the right amount of leverage that you can create for a couple more breaths here in your T-spine rotation? And if you're also following along with what we have done so far, we've foam rolled some areas, then we've done some warming up. And as we've moved into this portion, we've flexed, extend the spine, we've moved it sideways, and we've rotated. Now we're going to come up and out of this stretch, and we're just going to be prone for this next one. So all the way on the ground, prone on the stomach. And then we're going to start with the right side. So really want you to think about your right hand gluing to the ground, the elbow below the shoulder, and then we're slowly going to peel up by bringing the left foot up, over, and just finding that rotation. So this foot, this doesn't matter where this is in space. We don't want this to be overly complicated on your spine. We actually want this stretch to be firm into the pec and the chest. So whatever you need to do with that left hand as well. Sometimes I like to place that left hand on the ground as leverage, and it helps me really rotate. So you can do the same thing, and you might not be able to see the subtle shaking that I'm seeing over here, but there's active fingertips, there's active hands, and each time there's an inhale, there's a little bit of contraction. Every time there's an exhale, we found a little bit more length. But really important here, we're just hanging out at end ranges and we're focused. We're breathing. You're telling your body it's okay to have a little bit more range of motion in the front of these shoulders. And we'll just hang out for another deep inhale and exhale. And we'll slowly rinse out of this position and get to the other side. You guys get to see a different angle here. As that left hand plants, we're working that right arm, right foot behind, and then this right hand is just leverage. So you can rinse around with that hand to make sure there's no pinch or anything like that. But we do like to see that elbow below the shoulder and the hand pressed out. A lot of times when people do this stretch, lengthen out the arm, you're going to get more of the bicep. And we're trying to get closer to that left shoulder joint. And that is why we have that 90 and 90 bend with the left arm. Good. And that's going to be a much greater opening in the chest. Not that the other way is wrong or different or bad. So we're just opening up the chest a little bit longer here in our quick torso and upper body mobility session. Good. We'll go a couple more breaths, see if you can get a little bit more length. You'll notice one side might have a little bit more range than the other, something to focus on. We'll give it that last little bit here. And now, as we come out, we can find our way to our back, to our final mobility exercise. Simple enough. It's a supine twist. So as you're laying back, we'll bring the knees 90 and 90. And we're just going to start with whichever way. Let's go ahead and let our ankles and knees fall to the right. And then maybe even just try to scoot your hips over to the left just a little bit. So what we had Coach Skyler do is just make sure that lower back's not overly rotated. And you guys can do the same. And in this supine twist, trying to keep the ankle bones and the knee bones kind of connected. And then slowly starting to bring that gaze over the left shoulder. So yes, you're going to feel a little opening in the chest and the head and neck. But overall, we're just getting one more good rotation, a little bit for the low back. We'll just hang out here. And just simply hanging out here, you can feel yourself communicating to the parts of your body that are tighter. Could be a little bit of your hips, definitely a little bit of the low back, and maybe even a little bit of the opening of your chest. So call it a couple more breaths. Good. And then we'll slowly work ourselves to the other side. Be mindful, use your core to do so. And then watch that little scoot of the hips to make sure there's no extra rotation out of the low back. Good. Just enough to get that good stretch and slowly bringing that gaze over the right hand. Good. I always like to think of this posture, this pose, as just a simple way of somebody taking your spine over a sink and almost rinsing it out like a towel. And the idea is your spine does need to move. And being on your back, you're very grounded here, so you can be even more mindful of keeping that mobility in your spine without overdoing it, without putting any unwanted pressure or tension. It's just a great one to just hang out in if you're ever having just those little aches and pains in your back. Normal day life gets us going forward, forward, forward. So seeing rotation in our life is always good. And then we're just going to finish our mobility session on our back, rested and long. We're just going to get into some deep breathing here. We can go hand on the belly, hand on the chest again. We're just going to go 5 intentional breaths just to really let the whole practice sink in. So that inhale is lifting the hand on the low belly, then the chest, and then the exhale is pushing the chest, then the belly down. And all those inhales and exhales can be in and out of your nostrils. So that really good seeping of air to fill up the lungs. And if you're still making that count and you're on the second breath, good job with the slow breath. We'll go a couple more. 2 more deep breaths to end your practice. Good. Maybe even that last breath, that little bit of gratitude that you did a nice mobility session and noticing how you feel with that last exhale. Good. And as we get that last exhale, we'll slowly wake our coach up, see how she's doing, see how she's feeling. Some thumbs up for the camera. Outstanding work. This is a great one to do anytime, but especially if you're dealing with any shoulder, upper back, or low back tightness. Thanks for joining us today, and make sure you guys comment and let us know how you liked the video.